This is one of the usual nice Tamiya box illustrations, but on one side we see the soldiers' faces and the item number. Then we find the origin of this kit and pics of the accessories. Map case and pistol holster. Binoculars in a camo bag. Camo field cap and helmet with camo cover. And here's the year of release and the street signs. You can cut them out and use them for the assembly. There are two sprues with only a couple of parts inside the box. The motorbike was released in 1999 and I bought and built it back then for the first time. Here's the first sprue with the parts for the motorcycle. It consists of only 21 parts. This is just one part and it looks quite nice, but let's take a closer look now. The tread is nicely represented. While the spokes look nice from the side, you can see that there aren't real spokes from this view. It can't be helped because of the tooling. Keep in mind that this kit is almost 20 years old and that's what was possible for one-piece wheels back then. The same goes for the mudguard. If you're careful, you can hollow it out. A last look from the other side. And this is also just one piece. Of course it would have been possible to do this in, let's say, 15 or 20 parts, but it isn't necessary to do this. We can argue about engineering, but in my opinion this is a great example of engineering. I like designers with an eye for the simple solution to the greatest possible effect. I don't need hundreds of parts to feel better. The result is the only thing that counts for me. Of course it's a very simple kit, but what's wrong with that? Here's the second part of tank, engine and gearbox. The carburetor is nicely done. The gear shift is molded on and can use some extra detailing. There are enough reference pics on the internet if you wish to do so. The two parts of the fork look like mantises. The details look nice and come real close to the actual motorbike. The ejector pin marks are shallow but should be filled and sanded. Here are the two parts that have to be glued onto the tank. I had to investigate if there are two filler caps. I'll show you my result when we look at the instructions. And there's the year of release for this sprue. The left side of the rear frame. I'm only guessing, but I think this is a toolbox. Its rear is open and I'd suggest to fill it. Frame, gearbox cover, sprocket and chain come in one piece. I'm a bit disappointed. I think it would have been possible to do a better job on sprocket and chain, even though Tamiya decided to do the molding this way. This desperately needs extra detailing, be it with one of the available PE sets or from scratch. This is another part that proves the great skills of Tamiya designers again. Exhaust pipe, front and rear footrest and brake pedal come as one piece. Of course the details would be crisper if this was a new kit. The front footrest isn't conical on the actual motorcycle and the brake pedal is a bit too thick. You still can get away with it. The left exhaust assembly is even better. Kickstart and clutch pedal are really nice. If you wish to, you can send them a bit thinner, but as before, it isn't really necessary. Here we have the saddles. The actual parts aren't made from leather. They appear to be made from rubber or some kind of plastic. The steering handle and the levers come as one piece and they look quite nice. The small decompression lever on the right side of the handle is missing. Here we also see the grab handle for the rear passenger. Here's a pic of the actual levers. As you can see, they are much thinner. Some careful sanding could take the kit's part closer to this appearance. All in all, the part is nice and absolutely usable. Here are headlight and stand. I'll show you an actual stand later. You could go crazy about detail and fill the front parts inside with PVA glue to make it look like glass. The last two parts are the side bags. The locks are really nice. Again, I'd suggest filling the rear. I didn't mention seam lines and flash, but A, there isn't any flash, and B, the seam lines are faint. The decal sheet is small, but it offers 4 options. There aren't any tactical markings, but where would you put them on this wee motorbike? These license plates were the reason for buying this kit. I need them for the BMW R12 that I'll use for my Cheese Dio. Now I know where to get police license plates for motorcycles, but I'm actually glad that I didn't know it back then. The DKW is a small kit you can use on all theaters of World War II. A real close-up of the DKW emblems. Maybe it's possible to print them in a better way today, but they will easily do the job. This is really okay, especially since it's an extreme magnification. The decals are thin and not glossy. The carrier film around the license plates is a bit too much, and the decals should be cut out properly before use. The instructions start with a nice drawing of the motorbike. It shows some details like brake and fuel lines you might wish to add. Then there's a brief history on the DKW in Japanese and English, German and French. The usual safety instructions and tips. And the color call-out. Of course only Tamiya paints are mentioned, but at least the colors' names are there. You can decide which brand to use. The steps look busy, but that's because of the color and decal symbols. Remember that there are only 21 parts to assemble. Here's the stand as it comes with the kit, the way it looks like on the drawing, and what the actual stand looks like. Again, the step looks very busy. I talked about these two parts before. Here you can see what they look like on an actual DKW. And from a different angle. And now in dunkelgelb. Here's a complete tank. Somehow I wasn't able to understand what I saw. I still thought this might be 2 filler caps. Maybe one for fuel and one for oil. It could have been the case for a 2-stroke engine with separate lubrication. And here's a tank of an NZ1. Only one of these caps. And a nice pic of the clamp for the gas mask container. And then it became clear. This motorbike has an electric starter. How blind can one be? But now you see how important good reference pics are. Final assembly. 2 maps to cut out. And the road sign assembly. Second sprue. The figures and the wooden parts for the roadblock assembly. These figures represent what I call the intermediate generation. They are between the real old ones and the very nice new ones. The head looks okay, but can't compete with actual figures. Well, with one exception, but I'm not reviewing mini art figures today. The ears won't be visible under the helmet. I could do without the molded on strap. The hair looks quite realistic. You don't find this anymore these days. Body and legs in one piece. The body doesn't look too bad. The uniform folds are nicely done. There seems to be a notepad inside the pocket. Figures of this generation already have nice locations for stuff like map cases and pistol holsters. That makes them look much more realistic than the old ones where you glued the accessories flat on top of the body. The legs don't look bad either, but there's one thing Tamiya didn't change for this generation. Please wait for a second. Here we have the body again. The collar badges look a bit like those I complained about on the last mini-art figures I reviewed. I could complain again, but these figures are Waffen-SS men. The Waffen-SS had their own field police, so the collar badges have the correct shape. The gorgeous chain isn't as nice as those in the new military field police set. The gorget looks nice, and it'll look really good with one of the decals I just reviewed. Here are the legs again. This is what I was talking about. All boots of standing figures have no heels. That doesn't matter too much if the figure is standing on grass or dirt. If it's standing on a street, it just looks silly. Some sanding will solve the problem. Although the boots don't come close to Tamiya's new toolings, I'd suggest to add the loops on the sides of the shaft. Here's an example of how I did it. I used stiff aluminum foil and CA glue. This is a 17-year-old figure, but I guess it can still be used. You want to check before you use it along with figures by other manufacturers. I'm sorry for the glare. It was a very sunny day. Another view of the notepad. I can live with removing the seam lines. The collar badges again. These are shoulder straps the uniform decals were made for. A couple of shots in the back, from the rear. The folds, seams and hem look nice. These look like cracks, but according to my experience they won't be visible after painting. Here we have the arms. There are two armbands around the right arm. Again, the uniform details look very good. On the right hand there's rather flash than a seam line. I don't like that because removing it isn't easy and can damage the fingers. The right arm looks a bit weird, too straight in my opinion, and the sleeve doesn't look natural either. A closer look at the hand. It's nicely molded and that makes the flash even more annoying. Just the seam line to remove on the left arm. I really like the helmet. Because of the camo cover, the sprue gate isn't as dangerous as usual. To me this looks like a human face. Well, two human faces of course. The seam lines are quite pronounced. The ears remind me of those of a mouse. I have no idea yet on how to make them look better. The goggle strap looks nice. Again, the hair looks real enough. Here's the body with the camo smock. There are a couple of loops that were used to attach things like a torch to. We can see the Waffen-SS collar badge shapes again. The back and the folds look realistic. Then we have the arms, and you can see the flash around the hands again. This is quite unusual for Tamiya and maybe the worst bit of the assembly. Legs and boots appear to be nicely done. The folds look natural. Here's the locator for the pistol holster. And here are huge locators for the saddle. That's a good idea. I guess I won't use this figure for this motorbike, but I'll definitely keep it for further use. And here's a part I never saw before. A pair of binoculars and a camo back. The bit we can see inside the open bag is the protection cover for the vision. Here are the lenses, and you can see that they need some work to look right. It's an interesting part, and it'll be a joy to paint it. Here's a field cap with molded on goggles. No strap? Okay, it isn't difficult to add one, but it's amazing that it's missing. I can't say that I'm a fan of this. I drill out the goggles a bit to paint the field cap. Then I fill the holes with PVA glue and give the cap a flat clear coat after the glue has dried completely. The glasses will be painted clear orange. This hole on top of the cap should be filled, or you should paint some red blood around it. No reason for any complaints about these holsters. I love this. The right map case's strap is open. The map cases look very nice anyway, but this is a brilliant detail. This finishes the figures, but not the sprue. Let's look at the roadblock now. The actual blocks were made from wood, so the parts should have some wood texture. I think the wood grain isn't too convincing, but this detail is typical Tamiya. It doesn't matter which way you attach the lower cross member, but Tamiya made locators of two different sizes to make the assembly idiot-proof. The cross member doesn't look too bad. Here you see the locator's counterparts. These ejector pin marks don't need to be filled. And if you thought Tamiya forgot about it, you were mistaken. The top part has two different locator sizes too. And this is one of the two locator pins for the pole. The ejector pin marks are raised, and that makes it easier to remove them. And finally the pole. Those who know me will have guessed that I'll use these parts as templates to make my own from wood. They look better than the plastic parts. The road signs are a nice idea, but I used stuff like this before and there's a problem. The box is made from multi-layered pressed cardboard and it has a tendency to fall apart when you cut out bits of it. A solution can be to carefully peel off the lower layers and glue the top ones onto a piece of thin styrene or veneer. Another one can be to cover the edges with liquid CA glue. Anyway, the signs need some weathering, some wood imitation on the backside and a flat clear coat. Just a reminder, There are many aftermarket road signs available. Honestly, you won't need the instructions to build the figures. The color callout is nice and useful for those who aren't sure about which colors to use for German uniforms. On the other hand, you can use many grey greens and olive greens for the Feldgrau. The colors changed many times during the war depending on the materials that were available. The colors bleached because of sunlight and washing the uniforms. You can hardly go wrong. As long as it looks right, it is right. I guess this pic makes clear what I meant when I said the right arm looks weird. The examples of the painted figures are nice. They aren't masterfully painted, but good average. The paint job shows that the faces don't look bad. A close-up of the camo patterns and some information on motorbike and uniforms. As I said, I built the motorbike before and it fits perfectly. Spokes, chain and sprocket aren't up to today's standards. It's up to you to decide if you build it out of the box, buy an aftermarket PE set, or try to improve the part yourself. The figures aren't bad and will find use on a Dio. The motorcycle will appear on a Dio with another kit I bought recently and I'll show it in an inbox review soon. I just received this Bronco kit. There's PE included and the kit is 10 years younger. Nonetheless, Bronco did many things in a similar way Tamiya did. Tamiya can't have been too wrong then. I'll show the Triumph motorbikes in one of my next videos so you can compare the kits. If you ask for a recommendation, I can give you one for the DKW. It's a nice little kit with some flaws. If you're willing to put up with them or change them, you'll like this 21 parts kit. I guess the figures will fit nicely, but compared to new Tamiya, Masterbox or ICM figures, they're only second choice. Usable but nothing special. Okay guys, that's it for now.